Okay, friends, it's 2 o'clock, and we just carved out a quick half hour so people could drop in and get some quick information. So I am Jeremiah Nelson. I'm the Director of Enrollment Management for the Charlotte MBA programs. I feel like I probably should turn on my camera here just so that you can see my smiling face for just a second. Well, I don't want to unshare the PowerPoint, so we'll just leave it at that. Kevin, are you on the line?
I sure am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Bender. I'm the Executive Director of the MBA program in Winston-Salem.
So our plan for today... Oh, sorry, Kevin. Yeah, so our plan for today was just to give you a quick hit because we've heard from so many prospective students that they aren't sure how to proceed since the testing centers have been closed and they're announcing some new formats for testing and wondering kind of what our position is and what we're recommending. So we thought it would be useful to you and for the people that can't make it today to send them a recording of this chat to just give you a little bit more information about how you might proceed and how we're here to support you as you go through that process. So just a couple of quick updates, and then we'll talk about kind of how we are moving forward. Both the GMAT and the GRE have announced that they're offering an at-home testing option. They will be secure, they will be web-based, and GRE's is available now, and the GMAT expects theirs to be available mid-April. So as you consider if this is the right option for you, a few details that will likely be helpful as you explore this possibility. The first is that it is secure, so that means it's proctored by both a live person and by AI technology. You'll need a speaker and a camera in order to be able to take the at-home tests. As of right now, the GRE version is only available on Windows and is not available to be used on Macs. So that is a limitation for many of our prospective students, and one reason why you might choose to delay. They're working on a non-Windows and a Mac-ready version. GMAT has not announced their details yet, so this is really based on what we've heard from the GRE. I mentioned there are live proctors as well as AI technology, so important to know that the system kind of is just like the testing center in that you have kind of a monitoring process while you're going through the actual test. You do get to be in the comfort of your own home, but if there are any irregularities, as you would imagine, there's a great many more possibilities for that. It is within the proctor's authority to just cancel the test on the spot. So important to know kind of what their expectations are for a secure testing environment and as to whether or not that is possible given our current state of affairs and whether that might make good sense for you. So part of it is you need to be in a private room. You need to be able to be completely alone, nobody walking in on you. If somebody does, it is likely that they will cancel your test. You cannot have headsets, you cannot wear anything in or around your ears. Your ears have to be completely visible for the duration of the test. You can't take it in any seated position. You have to be at a standard kind of desk chair situation. Regular height chair and that kind of thing because they need to be able to look all around the space. You're literally going to show them with your camera kind of what your space consists of. And just like the regular testing center, no food or drink. One important detail just from a supplies perspective, just like in the regular testing center, you are not able to take notes on paper and take it with you. So you are allowed to use a whiteboard with an erasable marker if you want to be able to work through your problems and that kind of thing. Or if you don't have a whiteboard, you can use paper under or in a sheet protector so that you can still use that erasable marker and wipe it clean away. And the proctor will require that you show them you're erasing it at the end of your test. Obviously, security is extremely important to the testing process, and so they want to make sure that there's no kind of leaking of questions or problems in that way. So this is what they've told us so far. The GRE launched last Friday, so people have been out and taking it. I have not had any students yet report back from my candidates coming to Charlotte as to how it went. I don't know, Kevin, if you've heard anything, but at this point we are just letting candidates know that this is a fully acceptable version of the GMAT or GRE. Same price, same scoring kind of range. There's no kind of variations. So it's tested the same and it's scored the same. So the intent is that it is a one-to-one equivalent of the exam that's offered in the testing centers. So let me pause for just a second. You're welcome to use the chat box if you have any questions about this, and then we're going to talk about kind of how we're incorporating this at-home option and the timeline into the Wake Forest application process. So any questions about that, feel free to use that chat box. All right, so I'm not seeing anything pop up here, but feel free to chime in. I'm going to just move on here and just talk a little bit about the way that we're approaching the application process. So we always at Wake Forest, because our programs are so personal and kind of relationship oriented, like to start with a conversation. So just like we've always done, we prefer to meet with you one-on-one and talk through the process with you and really tailor it to your individual circumstances. So if you are somebody who may qualify for a waiver, we want to be able to give you direction onto how to approach that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. And if this is not a good fit program for you, unlike many programs who are perfectly happy to receive applications and just deny people that are not a good match, our approach is much more kind of human-centered in that if somebody is not a good match, we go as far out of our way as we can to be able to help you find the right program for you if it is not available here at Wake Forest. We're not interested in just receiving applications for the sake of application's sake. So the way to save yourself all of that kind of heartache and process is to talk with one of us first. So you can do that right through the website, and we'll send you the link so that you're able to schedule that by accessing our calendars directly, so you can just find a time that's convenient for you. The next step in the process, once you've had a chat with us, is to submit an application. Some people like to submit an application ahead of time. Of course, that's always fine, but if you schedule a consultation with us, we will waive the application fee. So feel free to schedule that, and we'll be happy to give you a code so that you can save yourself $100 when applying online. At the time of the application, I tell people it is important to know that this is a disarmingly straightforward application. It is very, very simple. It will take you less than an hour to complete, often like a half hour to 45 minutes. And many people say, okay, how is it that a top-ranked program is requiring so little paperwork in order to go through this process, especially if you're applying to multiple programs. A lot of programs make you jump through many, many hoops. That is not our approach here. We are more interested in just getting to know you, and so don't be surprised when you get to the paperwork part of the process. Go ahead and submit that paperwork. Resume, unofficial copy of your transcript is perfectly fine. So if you have a scanned copy or a version that you can download from your school's website, that's perfectly fine. We'll ask you for an official copy after you've received an offer of admission. Lastly, important to know, we do not require reference letters or forms anymore. Most people are savvy enough to give us references that are going to say nice things about them. So rather than making those people spend a lot of time doing that, we just want their contact information. So if we have any questions about your candidacy, that we have somebody to reach out to that knows you well and can speak to your strengths. Last step in the process is the interview. Right now, those are being conducted by WebEx. So we are still reviewing applications. We are still admitting students for the fall class. So you don't need to kind of hold off and wait until the unfortunate health situation that we're all dealing with tapers off. All of this planning can happen between now and then, all virtually. So we've completely adapted our processes using the WebEx format. We get you feedback really quick. Generally within 2 business days you'll get feedback on the interview, and if you're ready for an admissions decision, you will receive that decision right away. So we don't hold and pool candidates. We admit you as we meet with you. Important, this is the big change for many candidates. We have relaxed our test score requirement in that generally to receive an admissions decision, most candidates would be required to submit their test score first. But if we have interviewed a candidate who has great credentials, great work experience, great undergraduate record, we will not hold your decision based on your test score, and we will give you the maximum amount of time possible to submit that test, which for many candidates that would give them several extra months, whether that's extra months because you prefer to do it in a regular testing center or because you're not eligible or able to do the online at-home version. It's totally up to you, but we will give you all the way through the summer. But the test has to be taken before the program begins, but we want to make sure you've got plenty of time to do that, and we'll be glad to support you through that process accordingly. So let me pause for a second there. We'll talk about the test waiver process and then open it up for questions. Any questions about anything you've heard so far? Feel free to use the chat box to ask your questions. I've got a question here from Paul who says, are we able to schedule interviews while the application requirements are being sent in or once everything is complete? So generally we do require that your application be submitted before we schedule an interview, because you can submit your unofficial transcript, and because we don't require complete, a reference letter, it probably won't take you more than an hour to complete that. So once you've been able to just get that paperwork part done, we'll get you invited for an interview soon thereafter. All right, another question here from my friend Colleen, asking about 360 view. Does that mean you should be in a 4-walled room? In other words, open floor plans such as a kitchen or family room would not be advisable. That was the impression that I received from GRE, was that it needed to be a completely private room, and that they needed to be able to see that you were essentially closed in that space. So an office or a bedroom or something, but you have to be able to sit at a desk, and the expectation is that it's completely clear. So they were pretty specific about it. So I would expect if you visited the GRE website, they would have some of these guidelines outlined for eligibility. Any word about GMAT at home? Yes, so that should be available mid-April is what they're saying. They have not released a specific date, but obviously they're doing their best to get that launched and ready. GRE had a little bit of an edge on them because they were already working on this a couple of months ahead of time, and so they had already been testing it in about 9 countries before the pandemic hit. So they were able to pivot pretty quickly, and both I think are planning to use ProctorU, which if anybody's taken an online course before that had proctored exams. It's a very common service, so they've apparently both contracted with ProctorU to be able to have those live proctors available to watch test takers. All right, so probably worth talking a little bit about the waiver process. And I'm going to invite Kevin to chime in here as well. So historically, the strategy for Wake Forest has been, because this is a working professional program, people with significant work experience combined with a reasonably strong academic background would not need to take a test because they've already really proven themselves in all of the ways that we kind of measure and value their success. So in essence, the test would not add anything to a candidate's strength. Somebody who has a low GPA or somebody who's light on work experience might need to take the test. A couple of years ago, we had a little bit of a, I'll say curveball. Is that a nice way to say it? In that the rankings shifted what they value, which they do periodically, and de-emphasized work experience and increased their emphasis on test scores and how many tests were taken. And so the availability for waivers became more competitive, and a higher bar was required in order to receive a waiver. So we have to be a little bit more strategic in the way that those waivers are granted. But in essence, the truth remains for Wake Forest. This program, the way that we deliver it in a face-to-face, cohort, team-based environment, the work experience factor is incredibly important to the in-class experience, and we still highly value that. I would venture to say more so than probably anywhere else. And so we still grant waivers based on professional experience. And the way that you request that is to submit a short essay in your application. There's a text box, so you can put a few paragraphs in there that just explains your professional and academic background and how you feel ready and qualified for admission without a test. And there are certain categories of folks that stand a very good chance for waiver. Military folks, people with 10 or more years of work experience, folks that already have a graduate degree and have been successful, particularly if that was a quantitative-oriented graduate degree. What else, Kevin?
Significantly high undergraduate GPA coupled with that years of work experience is two factors that weigh heavily into that.
For sure. So you're always welcome to apply for a waiver, and we will be glad to give you candid feedback on your potential for a waiver in that consultation that I mentioned at the beginning. So definitely schedule that if you're kind of on the bubble about taking the test. Now, the trade-off is, depending on your credentials, you may be eligible for a significantly higher scholarship award if you have a very strong application plus a good to strong test score. So that's the carrot to, even if you receive a waiver, to circle back around and take the test, or even if you're eligible for a waiver, to pursue the test anyway. So important to know, you can still be admitted through the waiver process if you qualify, and we give every waived candidate the option to pursue additional scholarship dollars by taking that test anytime between admission and orientation. So you've got a nice long window if you want to pursue those extra dollars, and generally it's going to be between $6,000 and $12,000 for a strong test score. So if you are able to get into kind of our acceptable range of 600 plus, you're pretty likely to get $6,000 and possibly more if your score is higher. So for many people that's worth it, and if you are granted a waiver and those dollars would be motivating for you, then we encourage you to take the test as well. So we'll talk about each of those circumstances individually based on your kind of full application package. All right.
Jeremiah, Jeremiah, let me just add one thing.
Yeah, please.
It's kind of Kevin, with the Winston-Salem program. The waiver that would be offered potentially, it's a win-win-win if you do receive a waiver and opt to take it. And when I say win-win-win, the applicant who takes it and scores well enough to get some money, that's a win. We, as a school, would reduce our waiver percentage, which helps us in the rankings, which again, in turn, helps the student's degree when they graduate be more valuable. So if you are granted a waiver, just consider taking that, as it helps you, help us, help you, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And potentially releases an available waiver for somebody else down the road, which is also a nice thing. Can continue to spread the love.
This is Kevin again. I would, while you're thinking of your questions, just add, lots of uncertainty as to what the future holds, but believe me that we are going to be operational for a long time and planning to have orientation face-to-face in August. Let there be no doubt about that. We're dealing with a lot of change, daily change, but we're anxious and excited to continue to fill both the Winston-Salem and Charlotte cohorts. Both programs are currently about halfway towards our capacity for students, so there's still a lot of opportunity, a lot of time to submit and be rendered a decision and join these cohorts as we move forward with excitement towards August.
The faculty, just to give you an update on kind of how everybody is managing, as you may have seen from the news, our extraordinarily gifted faculty have had to pivot on a dime and launch their courses in a virtual format. I've been reinforcing over and over again, this is not online education at its best, because typically an online class takes months of preparation and instructional design to kind of maximize the experience in a virtual format. But they've done an exceptional job. We've heard great feedback from students that they have been, as you would expect from the kind of faculty that are drawn to a school like Wake Forest. Very generous in terms of supporting students. The administration has been great and giving them options and flexibility. And our students, at least at last conversation we had last week, they were all still in very good spirits and optimistic about returning to our face-to-face format, which is really in our opinion, the most extraordinary way to earn your MBA. And so we'll get through this together for sure.
Another question about which test, GRE or GMAT, is more useful or more telling for an applicant. We're indifferent. We have no preference. Both tests look at the same skill sets, quantitative section and a verbal section, as well as a writing section. So we get, and there's an algorithm that converts a GRE score to a comparable GMAT score, so we have ways of making the two look the same. So it's really comparing apples to apples. But again, it's no preference on our end.
But otherwise, we certainly hope you have a good, healthy, safe rest of your day and week, and look forward to connecting with you one-on-one to talk about your individual application and how we can best support you as you go through this. I haven't seen Kevin's class, but I'm pretty confident, since it's usually the case, the same as ours, this year's class might be the best we've ever had. I mean, the quality of the candidates has been so exceptional. It is going to be a great year to join the Wake MBA. Every year is great, every class is great, but I have to say, the credentials that people are bringing, it's like they've been waiting for 3 or 4 years to join us, and so this is a great time to hop into the Wake MBA and have a really exceptional face-to-face in-class experience. So we definitely would love to see you there. All right, well, thank you for your time this afternoon. We appreciate you very much, and happy to continue to be available and answer any questions on an individual basis. So call or email anytime. We're happy to help. Look forward to talking soon.